Today we're in Canada, however, only technically I'm afraid. Actually, we're still in Devon. However, the subject of today's video does indeed pertain to Canada. Because yes, whilst we're venturing out into the sticks of East Devon, the subject of today's video is actually the territory of the Canadian province of Ontario. So join us as in today's video we explore the history of Wolford Chapel, Devon's very own slice of Canada, or more accurately, Canada's very own slice of Devon. Before we get to the chapel, let's talk a little bit about this location. Wolford Chapel is located in East Devon, northeast of Exeter, southeast of Tiverton, north of Honiton, and just south of Dunkswell. Conveniently nearby to where we were staying, or at least as convenient as Devon gets, which when it comes to the narrow, uneven country roads is not an awful lot. But comparatively to the average travel time between A and B in Devon, you couldn't complain really, and because of that, we simply had to come and check this place out. Wolford Chapel is a small building located at the end of a narrow green lane, one I wouldn't advise bringing your car down unless you have quite a fair bit of ground clearance, or you simply don't mind the scraping noise coming from the underbody of your car. Today the building can be easily identified by the iconic Canadian flag flying in the air beside it. But the story of how this place came to fly the colours of Canada begins with John Graves Simcoe. John Graves Simcoe was born in the village of Cotterstock, Northamptonshire, on the 25th of February 1752. The only child of John and Catherine Simcoe to live past childhood. His father, John, originally hailed from Cornwall and was a Royal Navy captain who commanded HMS Pembroke, a 60-gun fourth-rate ship of the line of the Royal Navy, until his death by pneumonia whilst at sea in 1759, when John Graves Simcoe was only 7 years old. This would lead the family to relocate to Exeter. Simcoe would be educated at the Exeter Grammar School and then Eton College, and he would spend a year at Merton College in Oxford before being admitted to Lincoln's Inn. However, John Graves Simcoe decided to pursue a military career, enlisting in the 35th Regiment of Foot in the British Army in 1770, aged 18 years old. Being dispatched to the American colonies, Simcoe saw action in the American Revolution, and by July of 1776 he had been promoted to captain of the 40th Regiment of Foot. In September of 1777, Simcoe was wounded at the Battle of Brandywine. However, he would continue to be active throughout the remainder of the American Revolution, after which he returned to England and married Elizabeth Gwilym in 1782. Elizabeth Gwilym, now Elizabeth Simcoe, had acquired a 5,000-acre estate at Honiton in Devon, where they built Wolford Lodge, a place that would be the Simcoe family seat until the 1920s. This land included the plot where Wolford Chapel would be constructed in 1802, though prior to the construction of the Simcoe family chapel, this site was home to an earlier chapel. We haven't quite got to why there's a Canadian flag outside it today, so bear with me. John Graves Simcoe would serve a spell between 1790 and 1792 as a Member of Parliament until his appointment as the first Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada following the Constitutional Act of 1791, which divided Canada into the provinces of Upper Canada, which is now known as Ontario, and Lower Canada, which is now known as Quebec. Upper Canada was newly settled following the American Revolution, inhabited mostly by English speakers, including loyalists who had migrated from the colonies. John Graves Simcoe, accompanied by his wife and their daughter Sophia, arrived in Canada in 1791. However, due to harsh weather, they would not reach Upper Canada until June of the following year. John Graves Simcoe would hold the position of Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada until 1796, in which time one of his most notable actions was establishing the town of York, establishing it as the new capital of the territory and less susceptible to attack from United States forces. The settlement of York would become the City of Toronto in 1834. He also aided in passing an act to limit slavery in Upper Canada, the first legislation of its like in the entire British Empire, though slavery would not be abolished throughout the British Empire until 1834. He did some other bits in this time, however poor health led him to returning to Britain in 1796. He would live for another decade carrying out other duties before his death in Exeter, Devon in 1806, aged 54 years. He would be buried here at Wolford Chapel on the Simcoe family estate. Elizabeth Simcoe would also be buried here following her passing in January of 1850, at a ripe old age of 87 years, leaving a legacy of diaries and watercolour paintings that help provide a valuable image of what life was like in colonial Ontario. John Graves Simcoe would be honoured with a memorial monument at Queen's Park in Toronto, which was unveiled in 1903. The Simcoe family estate at Wolford Lodge would remain in the family until it was sold in 1923, being broken down into parts. The vast majority of the estate would eventually be acquired by a British publisher named Sir Geoffrey Harmsworth, who now had the distinction of figuring out what to do with Wolford Chapel. There were many suggestions about what could be done here. One idea was to ship the chapel in its entirety to Ontario. However, ultimately, in 1966, Sir Geoffrey Harmsworth decided to donate Wolford Chapel to the John Graves Simcoe Memorial Foundation for the people of Ontario. And on the 27th of September 1966, Harmsworth gave a deed to the Premier of Ontario, John Robarts, and a permanent right-of-way was made to access the property. And in 1982, the Ontario Heritage Trust acquired Wolford Chapel. A brochure from the time stated, the John Graves Simcoe Memorial Foundation had been established to ensure the chapel will never fall into neglect, and will always be open to visitors from Canada and elsewhere. Today, Wolford Chapel is maintained by locals, and the interior is supposedly open during daylight hours. However, when I visited, it was not open. I suppose that's the expected outcome when you visit the chapel on a weekday in the dead of winter. Despite being in Devon's countryside, the chapel is recognised as territory of the Canadian province of Ontario, and flies the flag of Canada, meaning in visiting this site, you've technically visited part of Canada, but you also haven't, because you haven't left England, making it a rather nifty little place to detour to if you ever find yourself in the general area. Directional signs for Wolford Chapel also feature the Canadian flag, so in my opinion it's a very cool place to visit. And that brings us nicely to the video's end. We're technically in Canada. We've technically illegally entered Canada without leaving Devon. It's beautiful. Thank you all for watching this video. We really hope that you've enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share this channel with your friends, and all that wonderful stuff. That would be massively appreciated. If you plan on checking out Wolford Chapel for yourselves at any point, maybe head into nearby Dunkeswell and check out their small but busy airstrip. This airfield, now known as Dunkeswell Aerodrome, was initially established as an American Navy airbase during the Second World War. It's pretty snazzy and it's only up the road, though I personally was not able to go up. But hey, maybe another time. Besides that, we really appreciate all of your support and kindness. Thank you all for watching, and with any luck we'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, please take care and goodbye.